Nothing can be quite as cathartic as playing shooters after a hard day's work, especially first-person shooters. The genre has surely come a long way since Doom popularized it back in the 90s. Modern shooters nowadays are packed with a multitude of perks, buffs, cosmetics, and skins to personalize your favorite loadout, offering everything from the unexpected to the downright baffling at times.
I am Cornholio! I need tipi for my bunko!
Not that I'm against all those, but if you're like me, sometimes you just want something a little more old school, you know? Something linear, focused, and bombastically fun. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. Black, an FPS game released on PlayStation 2 and Xbox back in 2006. Now, in military jargon, the word black has various meanings. Black Ops, for instance, refers to missions that are so secret they're not supposed to attract much attention for the sake of deniability. While going black
phrasing?
means you're completely out of mission-critical supplies like magazines and explosives. And the irony? In Black, the game, you'll never feel short on firepower, and you'll be free to cause so much damage that the Amnesty International would have to make more than a few phone calls. If you play it smart, you're practically going to be drowning in ammo as you tear through everything in your way. And that's really the heart of it, considering that Criterion, the developer, is also the creative mind behind Burnout. It's no wonder they developed Black with the same underlying philosophy: make it cathartic, destructive, and spectacular. Their marketing even leans into the fetishistic side of guns, which I know sounds a bit sketchy out of context, but basically means they want to make the act of firing a weapon feel cinematic in itself. And for what it's worth, I think they nailed it. You'll see what I mean when you boot the game for the first time. You'll be greeted with a sleek, raw showcase of what will be part of your arsenal, starting from the aggressive bark of the AK-47, the rapid chatter of the suppressed MP5, and the thunderous roar of a Magnum revolver heard after each shot. I swear, it's like every gun nut's wet dream the more you look at it.
Phrasing.
Well anyway, in every one of those weapon showcases, the muzzle flashes burst like camera strobes. The guns are lovingly shown in multiple angles, and every click, slide, and casing rattle is emphasized just as much as the guns themselves when in action. Minor inaccuracies notwithstanding, but I'll get to it later down the line.
Keep your head on a swivel. Intel reports snipers in the area.
Alright, let's start by going over the plot first to set the stage. The entirety of the game's campaign is framed around an interrogation between an investigator and a Maverick operative. You play as the operative, Sergeant First Class Jack Keller. And yes, his last name sounding like Killer is most likely not a coincidence.
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
Over the course of the game, Keller recounts his multiple missions to bring down a highly organized terrorist group called the Seventh Wave, believed to be operating all across Eastern Europe. The group is said to be led by one William Lennox, a rogue operative who was once thought to be dead, but instead resurfaced to build his own private army. Each mission you play is basically Keller retracing his path through hotspots all over Ingushetia and Chechnya to hunt down Lennox, destroying anything and everyone in his pursuit.
Keller started grilling me on 7th Wave. I told him what I knew.
And what was that?
Rumors mostly. There was talk of an American running training camps in Afghanistan, freelance guerrilla group in the Philippines with an American advisor. You know, stories like that.
And you believed them?
Not at first. But then the blanks started filling in.
What blanks?
Operation Cleopatra. The first time I heard the name William Lennox was when I was posted in Langley. Lennox was a wet work specialist. S4 assassin. Cleopatra was meant to prevent the terrorist bombing in the center of Cairo. It was a disaster. The bomb exploded, killed a lot of people, including Lennox. At least that's what Division thought. 3 months later, he turned up in Moscow. 2 weeks after in Seoul. Then Belgrade, Belfast, London. Always one step ahead.
And you think Lennox is connected to 7th Wave?
Connected? He started the whole thing.
And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. The story is only there to string all the missions together. Don't expect any sort of slow burn drama and intrigue on par with Tom Clancy's thriller, because what's going to matter in the game is the cathartic action, the spectacle, and the amount of destruction that you can cause. Think Michael Bay and his trademark directorial style. And speaking of spectacle and destruction, let's jump into the gameplay. At its core, Black is a very linear first-person shooter with 8 missions in total, taking you to places like war-torn city streets, border checkpoints, industrial dockyards, and a long bridge packed with enemy reinforcements from end to end. Each mission runs about 30 to 45 minutes, which means they're not great shootouts. You're settling in for some hefty firefights with the enemies over the course of every mission. While the game is linear, there are occasional branching paths that let you poke around and explore for side objectives. And if you are playing on normal difficulty or higher, completing this isn't optional. You'll need to either collect or destroy specific targets in order to unlock the next mission. Since there's no in-game map to guide you, the level design is open enough to kind of nudge you into exploring side areas and straying from the main path now and then. Sometimes that adds a bit of tension because you don't know what's waiting around the corner, but other times it slows down the pacing and makes the mission feel longer than they need to be. Then again, it's not all that bad. There are hidden weapon caches and health packs scattered throughout, so there's another incentive for detouring off the main path. And honestly, I'd compare the overall vibe in any mission to riding a roller coaster. You've got the high points where the shootouts kick to overdrive, and then the low points where the game slows down and gives you a breather before the next one starts. Now, where Black really shines compared to other FPS games of its era is in its gunplay. The weapons are undeniably the star of the show, and Criterion really makes sure there's plenty to choose from, although you can only carry 2 at a time. No dual wielding though, which is a missed opportunity. You've got the usuals like pistols, SMGs, and shotguns, but also some heavier options like RPGs and grenade launchers when you really want to bring down the hammer. And of course, no military shooter would be complete without a handful of grenades and the dependable long-range staples like the AK-47 and the M16, both of which feel just as punchy and satisfying as you would expect. But here's the thing. If you are a gun purist, you might notice some creative liberties taken with how these firearms are represented. One thing that's noticeable right away is that the magazine capacities for some of the guns are downright ridiculous. Long-range rifles like the AK-47 somehow get double the amount of rounds per magazine compared to their counterparts IRL. Worth noting, considering that there's no upgrade system whatsoever for all the guns in the game. Furthermore, most automatic weapons in Black let you swap between fully auto and burst fire, when in reality, only a few, like the MP5 or M16, even have that option. The weapon animations are also tweaked. The Spas 12, for example, has shells being fed through the heat shield instead of the actual carrier latch. As for the guns' forms, the in-game MP5 visually looks a lot closer to an HK94 conversion. The M16 is basically an AR-15A2 carbine with some cosmetic tweaks, and even the WA-2000 sniper rifle is turned into a bizarre straight-pull bolt action. It's safe to say that Criterion clearly wasn't going for strict authenticity.
They're using shields!
But honestly, that's kind of the point. Black was never trying to be a hyper-realistic military sim like, say, Rainbow Six or Arma. The gun details might make enthusiasts shake their heads and roll their eyes, but for the average player, the exaggerated reloads, complete with real-time POV blur whenever you do so, and oversized mags make the guns feel heavier, punchier, and just more fun to shoot. For a game that puts style and action front and center, it's the vibe and spectacle that matter most. And let's not forget the sound every gun makes when fired, because oh boy, do they sound great and impactful, especially if you got a nice pair of headphones. Every weapon's got its own distinct sound. Before long, you'll be able to audibly recognize the bone-shaking roar of an RPG rocket that makes you tense up the second you hear it coming. While the sniper rifle's crack slices through the air like a whip, both sharp and unmistakable.
shooter on your point. Use the ground. Stay off the road.
Enemies using those weapons usually attack from long range, so being able to recognize their sound instantly is often the difference between surviving the battle and the game over. Also, the soundscape is surprisingly dynamic for an FPS released in 2006. Fire a weapon indoors and you'll hear a harsh echo bouncing off the walls. But you step outside and that same gunshot has more space to breathe, fading into the open air. It's a subtle detail, but it makes firefights feel grounded and almost like you're really moving between claustrophobic hallways and wide open battlefields. It's this level of sonic craftsmanship that made Black stand out so much that it earned a nomination for the 2006 BAFTA Video Game Awards for Best Audio, a well-deserved recognition of just how immersive its sound design really is, if you ask me. As for the enemies and the environments, this is where Black starts to lose a bit of its shine. Don't get me wrong, there's fun to be had in the way that you can make certain objects explode or collapse with just a few well-placed shots. Fuel tanks erupt into fireballs, cars can be blown apart with just a few shots, and fences or cover will shred under sustained fire. It's the kind of environmental destructiveness that was rare for shooters in 2006, and it does add to the spectacle. Once that spectacle wears off, you start noticing how limited the variety actually is. The environments, while detailed, are mostly static set pieces that funnel you forward without much room for experimentation. And the enemies themselves? Most are generic masked soldiers who differ only in how heavily armored they are and what weapons they carry. Outside of the occasional RPG troopers or snipers lurking in the distance, the shotgun-wielding bruisers who rush straight at you, or the riot shield guys who try to box you in, you'll mostly be mowing down the same few archetypes over and over again. After a while, it feels a little repetitive, especially compared to how dynamic the gunplay feels. That said, the AI does deserve some credit. Enemies will often take cover, suppress you with fire from multiple directions, or try to flank your position, which adds at least some unpredictability to combat, especially in higher difficulties. Oh, come to think of it, for a game that puts a heavy emphasis on shooting, the level of violence is pretty tame and very bloodless. While I'm on the subject of the game's downsides, let's add a few more to the list. First and most obvious is the complete lack of multiplayer. With gameplay this punchy and satisfying, you can't help but imagine how much fun it would have been to square off against friends in split-screen deathmatches, or better yet, online. But alas, there's none of that in the game proper. The campaign itself also suffers from how sparse and too far apart the checkpoints are in some of the missions. Considering that some can last upwards of 30 to 45 minutes, dying near the end and being forced to replay a huge chunk of the mission can be very frustrating. This is especially brutal in the final mission, where you're thrown against a gauntlet of enemies, one wave after another. Like, seriously, look at how little health I have when replaying this mission every time, scrambling for cover and health packs. Lastly, there are very few unlockables to chase outside of infinite ammo rewards for all the guns. I feel there just isn't much incentive to revisit the game after you've beaten it once. For all the highs that Black delivers in moment-to-moment action, its staying power just isn't quite there once you've experienced everything it has to offer. So, is Black worth revisiting today? I'd say yes, but with some caveats. If you're looking for a modern FPS with progression systems, multiplayer, and hours of replay value, I'm afraid this won't scratch that itch. But if what you want is a short, bombastic campaign that delivers some of the most satisfying gameplay of its generation, Black is still absolutely worth your time. It's a reminder of a very specific era in shooters, one where spectacle and destruction took center stage, and in that regard, it still holds up surprisingly well. Aside from playing it on the original Xbox, PS2, or emulation if you feel real nasty. You can also get the game via EA Play or by purchasing the digital version on Xbox One or Xbox Series XS. If you are thinking about diving into Black yourself, here are a few quick tips to make the experience a whole lot smoother. First, ditch the pistol as soon as you can. There are far better options like AKs and Uzis lying around early on. Suppressed weapons may hit softer than their loud counterparts, but remember, a clean headshot still drops most enemies in one. Since you can only carry 2 guns at a time, don't double up on the same type. Instead, mix it up. I usually go with an assault rifle for general encounters, plus a situational weapon like a sniper rifle for long-range threats, a shotgun for rushers, or an RPG for clearing obstacles and groups, or enemies with RPGs. Grenades are also invaluable. Use them to flush enemies out of cover, create a distraction that buys you breathing room, or just make things explode in spectacular fashion. Best of all, enemies can use grenades themselves, so you don't have to worry about them tossing one back at you. And finally, if you ever stumble across a Magnum revolver, grab it. Just grab it immediately. It's the most powerful sidearm in the game, capable of dropping most enemies with 1 or 2 shots. Just keep in mind, its ammo is rare, so save it for when you really need that stopping power. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this type of game review, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. You can also support me on various platforms like Saveria, Coffee, and Yap to help me continue creating videos for the channel. All the links, alongside the link to the game on Xbox One, can be found in the description. And if you got any other games you think I should check out next, drop them in the comments below. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.